Let's talk about the guards specifically. Obviously, they were a disappointment. It is interesting. It is interesting that I know Garland's a little older than Mobley, but because Garland was better in the regular season, like it was his first playoff too.
Yep.
We're not giving him a pass at all, even though he's not much older.
He's
than
got
Mobley.
$200 million contract and he's older.
Right.
He's been in the league longer.
And I'm not giving him a pass either. I'm just saying I think it's funny because it was his first experience, so you can understand his struggles a little. I would also blame him less. Certainly less than Donovan Mitchell.
Yes.
And I would actually blame him less than Jarrett Allen, even though more of is expected of him. But Jarrett Allen was awful. At least Darius had moments.
Right.
Whereas Allen was completely useless the whole series. But specifically to the backcourt, obviously there were some, when you have essentially 2 point guards, 2 guys that are ball dominant players, it's always going to be hard. And that was the case at times with Darius and Donovan. I don't know if there was any frustration by either player during the season or in the playoffs, whatever. It seemed like they get along really well. I don't know. There's been this, we've constantly talked about, at some point Donovan Mitchell's going to want out of here. What do we think about this backcourt, how poorly they played, and what the expectation for them is going forward?
They weren't great in this playoff series, but I don't think that means that they're doomed to fail in every playoff series.
Yeah.
I think that they could have a ton of success in the playoffs together. But now we can have the Donovan conversation. And we've sort of been hinting about it for a while, and I've been trying to push it off and kick it down the road. I don't want to talk about this until we saw how it ended for them. Now we can talk about it. The talk all year long has been Donovan's going to New York the first chance he gets. Like every time I talk to people around the league, it's, well, Donovan's going to New York. Donovan had told you that. At his introductory press conference, he said, I thought I was going home. I thought I was going to New York. He went there last night. We didn't ask him about New York. He brought it up. He's the one who mentioned again and said, I'm over it. Well, are you really? Because you're the one who's still talking about it. I didn't bring it up to you. And then once he brought it up, that's when I said, okay, what did you mean by that? Like, then we had a little bit more of a New York conversation after the game last night, but only because he went there first. So you have 2 years of control left on Donovan Mitchell and then a player option year. More than likely, he's not picking up the player option. These guys want to get back into free agency and get their next contract as soon as possible. You have 2 years left. Do you really think, after all the assets that the Cavs gave up to acquire him, that they're going to run the risk of letting him leave and getting nothing in return for him?
Right.
No, you're going to have to trade him with a year left on his contract unless you get a big extension out of him, unless you get a commitment out of him. I don't think that's happening. From everyone I've talked to, he wants to go to New York. Now, does New York want him? I don't know. But that's where he wants to go. That's where he wants to play. Jalen Brunson's outplayed him 2 years in a row now.
That's true.
And so there's
together,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's not our that's not our concern.
Yeah.
So that tells me you have 1 year left with Donovan Mitchell next year. It puts it all on next year. That is the last time that you have him without having to worry about having this trade conversation.
Right.
And I'll say one other thing, and I wrote this today in The Athletic. In 2010, when LeBron left the first time, Dan Gilbert told all the people close to him, I should have traded him with a year left on his contract. Now think about that. LeBron James, MVP, best player in the league.
Yeah.
Dan wanted to trade him in 2009. Says he should have traded him in 2009, and he would have come out and said he wouldn't commit to us. We can't risk losing the asset for nothing. We had to trade him. If he felt that way then, and he has said, I will never let another player hold my organization hostage again.
Yeah.
If he felt that way then, how do you think they're going to feel now and treat this now?
Well, let me ask you 2 questions on follow-up to that. Number one, Dan is obviously not involved with the team.
Well,
I mean, he's still the same way. Same way. Obviously involved, but not to the same degree as you pointed out. Does that change the dynamic of that
I don't
at
think
all?
so, because
No, okay.
Dan doesn't meddle on a day-to-day basis. The way it has been described to me in the past is Dan's voice isn't heard as often, but when he wants it heard, it is heard. It is
and
loud.
Something like this, he's in the mix.
Yes, something like this, he is absolutely in the mix. So it's not so much the day-to-day stuff, but major decisions like this, he is still final say on stuff like this.
All right, the other question is, if they talk, I would assume they might try to talk to Donovan Mitchell about an extension this offseason. Is that something they would do?
I mean, I'm sure that the conversation is fluid and constant in terms of what he wants.
If he makes it clear to them this offseason that there's no chance he's staying here long term, is there a chance they trade him this offseason?
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that gives you more opportunity to recoup more assets, but that would also be admitting a mistake. that trading for him initially. If you trade for him and you go to the playoffs and lose and win one playoff game and lose in the first round and then immediately trade him again, that's admitting a mistake. And I don't know that they're ready to sit.
That's a catastrophic mistake.
And one other thing to keep in mind, you're going to see. This is. I mean, we're talking about this now. You're going to hear this about Giannis in Milwaukee. You're going to hear this about Damian Lillard in Portland. All of these stars are going to start exiting, and there's only so many monster trade packages going around and teams that fit. Do you want to be first or do you want to be last in terms of trading these guys?
And in terms of, well, you're admitting a mistake. Okay, sometimes you make a mistake. Is it better to move on from the mistake? Not that Donovan Mitchell's a mistake, because he's a great player and who didn't have a good series. We all thought it was the right thing to do. I still think it was the right thing to do at the time. But it may now be like, if you say, well, if you trade him now, you're admitting a mistake. Well, if you wait one more year, you're saying, well, let's try to win a championship next year. Does anybody think the Cavs are going to win a championship next year?
Not right now.
I mean, that's.
But I do think Evan Mobley in year 3 is going to take another leap.
Okay.
I do think Garland is going to be better for this experience. They need help. They need bench help.
How are they going to get that? That's the fascinating thing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And, I was talking to somebody this morning who said, like, look at the Heat. Max Strus played 30, I don't know, almost 40 minutes last night. He was a league minimum guy that they developed. Gabe, help me out, Mikey. What's Gabe's last
Vincent.
name? Thank you. Gabe Vincent.
Me knowing that.
Yeah, look
That's
at you.
an upset right there.
Gabe Vincent played 39, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
League minimum guy. Kevin Love, they got off the scrap heap, got for nothing. League minimum guy.
Duncan Robinson was an undrafted guy who they turned into a guy who got
and
a $90
they even
million
lost, what's his
contract.
name? They had an injury to
Tyler Hero.
Hero.
But the problem is these are guys that are now 2-3 years into their development.
Yeah.
It's hard to find these guys and have them be instant contributors right now on a championship team. And the Cavs are out of time. If we're talking, and listen, I'm going to get this, like, people are going to misunderstand this, that I'm saying they need to trade Donovan this summer. I'm not saying this. Blame him. He's the one that asked me the question. I'm not, but I know how this goes. I'm going to get blamed for saying that they need to trade Donovan now.
No,
That's not what I'm saying.
that.
That's not what I'm saying. I do think they run it back next year with him and play this out again.
But he will be traded
I think
next offseason, most likely.
The way it stands now, barring a deep playoff run next year, barring a reason to get him to change his mind, I think the Cavs have to entertain the idea of trading him next offseason.
So that's why, like you said in the beginning, if they run back the same roster, knowing that, I'm not interested in watching them.
Not interested.
I'm not going to watch. Because
nobody ever runs it back the same. There's always change.
I mean, but if you come back with the same core guys and some league minimum dude, like, because what we're saying is, okay, we can't get none for Jared Allen. Okay, well, Donovan Mitchell probably will leave, and we'll have to trade him for something with 2 years left on his deal. And we still got Garland, who got $200 million, and we'll wait on Mobley. Like, where are the big changes? Where are the big?
Here's what I'll say in defense of Kobe. In 2018, I wrote they're screwed. There is no way they can salvage this roster and fix this roster. And it was, the building was on fire. And he maneuvered enough. He found enough magic beans to get Rodney Hood in here and Jordan Clarkson in here, and they were not great players. But it changed enough of the dynamic of the locker room that it got the Cavs back to the finals. Now, they lost in the finals, but he made more moves than I thought. I didn't see the path to getting some of that stuff done.
He's going to have to do that again.
And again, I'm looking at this going, I don't see the path.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
tough.
what it is.